The calm before the storm. The vastness of space was silent, empty, and still. For the people of Earth, it was a time of uneasy peace. Humanity had lived for centuries with the belief that they were alone in the universe, safe in their small corner of the galaxy. But that was about to change. A strange, terrifying signal had come from deep space, a signal that humans had never received before. It was a message, one filled with anger and hatred, directed at Earth. The Galactic Empire, the most powerful force in the galaxy, was coming. And they were coming for Earth. For the people of Earth, the news was a shock. Governments scrambled to respond. World leaders met urgently, trying to figure out what to do. They knew the Empire's power. They had heard the stories of planets that had fallen before the might of the Galactic Empire. Whole civilizations had been wiped out in a single stroke. But as the leaders of Earth sat in their war rooms, there was something strange in the air. It wasn't fear. It wasn't panic. It was something else entirely. The people of Earth weren't scared. They were angry. Angry at the thought of a foreign empire thinking they could come and take their home. Angry at the idea that they would stand by and let another empire destroy them. They had fought wars before, wars on Earth, against each other. But this was different. This wasn't a war for land, for resources. This was a war for survival. At the United Nations, the leaders of Earth made a decision. They would unite. They would stand together as one planet and fight back. The first step was to prepare. The war would not be easy, and it would not be quick. But humanity was not going to go down without a fight. The people of Earth started organizing. Scientists, engineers, and military leaders worked around the clock, developing new technology, building up defenses, and creating strategies. It was a race against time. The Empire's fleet was approaching Earth at an alarming speed. But the humans didn't back down. They didn't cower in fear. They worked harder, faster, knowing that the fate of the planet depended on what they did next. In the heart of Earth's military, Elena stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, Earth's most advanced ship. She was calm, but the weight of what was to come hung heavy in her chest. The Vanguard was ready, but the fleet of the Galactic Empire was vast. Elena knew that no single ship, no matter how advanced, could take on the entire Empire. But Earth had something else, something the Empire would never expect: unity. Elena's mind raced as she reviewed the latest reports. The Empire had sent thousands of ships, their weapons powerful enough to wipe out whole cities in seconds. The fleet was vast, but Elena was not worried. Not yet. The humans had something the Empire had underestimated: their ability to think, to adapt. "We've got this," Elena muttered to herself. She wasn't just talking about the Vanguard. She was talking about Earth. She was talking about humanity. As she walked down the long corridors of the ship, Elena could hear the voices of her crew. They were ready. The soldiers, the scientists, the engineers, they were all prepared to face the coming storm. There was no turning back now. The crew members worked together, preparing weapons and equipment, checking every system on the ship. They knew they had one chance. If they failed, Earth would fall. But failure wasn't an option. They would fight to the last breath. Far below, in Earth's cities, life went on as usual. People went to work, went to school, and carried on with their everyday lives. But underneath the normalcy, there was a tension, a quiet realization that their world was about to change forever. The world had always been at peace, but now, that peace was on the verge of collapse. News reports on TV screens showed the Empire's fleet advancing, its dark ships blotting out the stars. The people could see it, and they knew the truth. Their lives would never be the same. And yet there was no fear, just a quiet resolve. In the streets, people gathered to talk. There were whispers of what might happen. Some said Earth had no chance. Others believed humanity would be crushed in a matter of days. But the majority of people simply waited, watching, hoping. They hoped that the leaders of Earth, the military, and the scientists would do what they needed to do. They hoped that humanity would fight back, and they hoped that somehow, against all odds, Earth would survive. In the command center, Earth's military leaders met in secret. The Empire was powerful, but they had a plan. Alina's team was working with the best minds on Earth to create a weapon that could stop the Empire in its tracks. It wasn't ready yet, but it was their only hope. As the days passed, the people of Earth did what they did best. They adapted. They pulled together. They didn't hide. They didn't wait for someone else to save them. They fought back with everything they had. And then, on the eve of battle, as the Empire's fleet loomed closer, Earth's leaders gave their orders. The time had come to face the enemy head-on. The storm was coming, but Earth was no longer afraid. It was ready to end this fight, before it even began. The Galactic Empire's worst nightmare was about to unfold. Humans didn't fight wars, they ended them. And that was exactly what they were going to do. The Empire's first move. The darkness of space stretched endlessly, broken only by the countless stars twinkling far in the distance. But as the Empire's fleet approached Earth, it seemed like the universe itself was holding its breath. On Earth, all eyes were on the sky, watching for any sign of the approaching enemy. The first wave of the Empire's fleet entered Earth's atmosphere. A massive armada, with ships that could dwarf even Earth's largest cities, moved forward like an unstoppable storm. The Empire had arrived with one purpose: to crush humanity beneath their heel. In Earth's control centers, the military was on high alert. Commander Elena stood at the helm of the Vanguard, her eyes scanning the displays before her. The situation was dire, but there was a calmness about her. It wasn't that she didn't feel fear. It was that she knew fear wouldn't help them now. "We've worked for this moment. Now we show them what we're made of," Elena whispered to herself, her voice steady. The first reports from Earth's radar systems began flooding in. The Empire's ships were huge, powerful, and outnumbered humanity's fleet by a wide margin. The intelligence indicated that the Empire's flagship was already in orbit, broadcasting a message of domination. The Empire's supreme commander, Lord Valcor, demanded that humanity surrender immediately. His voice echoed across the communications channels. "This is your only warning, Earth. Submit now or face total annihilation. We have crushed entire galaxies. Do not think you are any different." The message was calm, but there was no mistaking the underlying threat. The Empire was used to conquering, used to the fear and despair that followed their conquests. They expected humans to crumble, to surrender without a fight. But Elena knew better. Humans didn't surrender. They fought. And they had something the Empire didn't expect: unity and ingenuity. Elena turned to her crew. "Initiate Phase 1. It's time." Without hesitation, the humans activated their first defense strategy. It wasn't a weapon, at least not in the traditional sense. Instead, it was a disruption field designed to disable the Empire's advanced communications and weapons systems. At the same time, Earth's fleet moved into position. A handful of ships, all newly upgraded with technology developed in secret, activated their cloaking systems. These ships were small, but they were fast and packed with powerful EMP devices designed to disrupt even the most advanced technologies. The Empire's reliance on overwhelming force was about to backfire. The humans were ready to make their move. As the Empire's ships advanced, they tried to scan the area for Earth's fleet, but their sensors flickered. They couldn't detect the human ships. It was the first sign that Earth was ready to fight back. Suddenly, the cloaked ships struck, sending waves of electromagnetic pulses toward the Empire's fleet. The results were immediate. The massive warships lost their communications, their weapon systems went offline, and their sensors were blinded. The Empire's fleet, once so confident in its technological superiority, was left scrambling in confusion. "What is happening?" Lord Valcor shouted, his voice filled with disbelief. "Where is the enemy? Why are our systems failing? On Earth, the people watched in awe. News reports showed the Empire's ships going dark, their once menacing forms drifting helplessly in space, unable to respond to the humans' unexpected attack. Phase 1 complete, Elena reported to her team. We've got them on the back foot. Now, we finish this. The Galactic Empire's flagship, still in orbit above Earth, was reeling from the unexpected turn of events. Valkor's anger flared as he watched his fleet struggle. He had underestimated the humans. He had thought them weak, fragile. But now, it was clear. Earth was not as defenseless as they had believed. They have no right to defy us, Valkor growled. We will crush them. But Elena knew something the Empire didn't. It wasn't the size of their fleet that mattered. It wasn't the strength of their weapons. It was the humans' ability to adapt. And in that moment, the Empire learned the hard way that underestimating humans could cost them everything. As the Empire's commanders tried to regain control, Earth's fleet moved into position for the next phase of the battle. The stakes were high. The Empire's ships were damaged, but they weren't defeated. This wouldn't be an easy fight, but Elena and her crew were determined. The humans weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for their future. The calm before the storm was over. The war had begun, and the humans had already made their first move. The Galactic Empire's worst nightmare had just begun. The Empire strikes back. The calm had shattered. The first successful strike from Earth had caught the Galactic Empire off guard, but the Empire was not a force that would stay down for long. They had vast resources, advanced technology, and years of experience in warfare. The disruption was only a minor setback. They would retaliate. Within moments, Earth's victory was met with a terrifying counterattack. Lord Valkor stood on the command deck of the Empire's flagship, his eyes glowing with rage. The initial shock of humanity's unexpected defense had been enough to unsettle even the most hardened warriors of the Empire. But now, it was time to respond. Valkor turned to his generals. "Prepare the counteroffensive," he ordered, his voice cold and filled with anger. "We will teach these humans a lesson they will never forget. Initiate Phase 2. Fire everything we've got." The Empire's fleet, still reeling from the EMP attacks, began to recover. Their weapon systems were online again, and their vast warships powered up. Massive beams of energy shot from the Empire's ships, cutting through the darkness of space like lasers through the night sky. The fleet's weapons were powerful enough to tear apart entire cities on Earth, but this time they were targeting the few ships humanity had managed to deploy. Humanity's defenses were no match for the sheer firepower the Empire wielded. Elena, on the vanguard, watched in horror as one of Earth's cloaked ships was caught in the line of fire, its shield failing to protect it from the Empire's deadly assault. The ship disintegrated in a brilliant flash of light. "Reinforce the shields. Get the fleet into formation," Elena shouted to her crew. Despite their best efforts, the human fleet was overwhelmed. The Empire's ships, armed with devastating energy weapons, rained down fire, cutting through human defenses. For the first time, Earth's fleet seemed vulnerable. Elena clenched her fists in frustration, her mind racing. "We can't hold out like this," one of her officers said. "The Empire is too powerful. We need a new plan. Now." But Elena didn't give up. She couldn't afford to. She had seen what Earth was capable of, and she knew there was still hope. "Keep fighting," she urged. "We've only just started. Stay in formation. Focus on the weak points in their fleet. We've learned their weaknesses. Now, we exploit them." As the Empire's firepower intensified, Earth's fleet slowly began to fight back. Ships used their superior maneuverability to dodge the Empire's attacks, moving in close to strike at vulnerable points on the Empire's massive warships. Small, fast human ships, designed specifically to exploit weaknesses in larger enemy ships, darted around the Empire's defenses, targeting key systems with precision. It wasn't a winning strategy yet, but it was keeping the Empire's fleet distracted. The Galactic Empire had underestimated humanity's ability to fight back. They were used to defeating enemies quickly and decisively, but Earth was proving to be a different challenge altogether. The battle raged on. Ship after ship fell, but humanity wasn't backing down. The crew aboard the Vanguard continued to fight, pushing their ship to the limits of its capabilities. Elena's eyes were glued to the screens, her mind calculating each move, each counterattack. "We need more time," Elena said under her breath. "We need to give our scientists time to deploy the new weapon." Humanity's secret weapon, developed in haste, was a prototype superweapon, a device that could potentially neutralize the Empire's most advanced warships in one strike. But it wasn't ready yet. They needed time to make the final adjustments. To ensure the weapon would work, every second counted. Meanwhile, on Earth's surface, the people watched the conflict unfold. News outlets broadcast images of the space battle, showing the devastating scale of the Empire's attacks. But despite the destruction, humanity's resolve was unwavering. Protesters filled the streets, not in fear, but in defiance. People rallied around their leaders, offering their support. They knew the fate of the world was on the line. They knew the battle would be long and hard, but they stood united. No one would give up. Back in space, Earth's fleet was struggling to hold its ground. The Empire was relentless. Ships exploded in fiery bursts as they were hit by the Empire's devastating weaponry. But there was still a spark of hope. The human fleet had something the Empire didn't understand: resilience. And then, as the battle seemed to reach its breaking point, Elena's voice rang out over the comms. "Phase 3. Activate the superweapon." A single ship, the Vanguard, began to move toward the heart of the Empire's fleet. With a fierce determination in her eyes, Elena steered the ship toward the Empire's flagship. She could feel the weight of the moment, the magnitude of the decision. This was the turning point, the point of no return. As Earth's fleet continued to battle, Elena's ship moved through the chaos, dodging beams of energy. The Empire's ships tried to target her, but the ship's newly upgraded shields held. She had only one chance, one shot. Then, with a massive roar, the Vanguard unleashed its new weapon. The burst of energy, far brighter and more powerful than anything the Empire had ever seen, shot out of the ship's core and toward the heart of the Empire's flagship. The beam struck with the force of a star collapsing. The flagship shuddered as its shields crumbled, and then, boom, a massive explosion ripped through the center of the ship, tearing it apart. The Empire's most powerful vessel was destroyed. In that moment, the Empire's invincibility began to crumble. Humanity had struck back with unimaginable force. But this was only the beginning. The war was far from over. The Galactic Empire's strike had been repelled, but at a great cost. Earth was still standing, but the real battle was just beginning. And Elena knew that this was only the first wave of what would be an epic war for survival. "You said, the Empire strikes back." Earth's fleet, battered but unbowed, stood ready to face the full might of the Galactic Empire. Their victory over the Empire's flagship had been a moment of triumph, but they all knew that it was nothing more than a small victory in a much larger war. The Empire would not forget the humiliation, and their vengeance would be swift. Elena stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, staring out into the vastness of space. The stars stretched endlessly before her, but it was the dark shadow of the Empire's fleet that now filled her thoughts. She had spent sleepless hours strategizing, trying to understand how the humans could defeat such an overwhelmingly powerful force. There was no room for error. "We've got less than 24 hours before they reach Earth," her second-in-command, Captain Rylan, said, bringing Elena out of her thoughts. "What's the next move?" Elena looked at the holographic map in front of her. The Empire's fleet was on a direct course for Earth. The sheer size of it was enough to make even the most experienced soldiers feel fear. Thousands of ships, all armed with the Empire's most advanced weapons, moving in perfect formation. "We strike first," Elena said firmly. "We know they're going to bring everything they have." We need to break their formation and weaken their command structure. If we can isolate their flagship, we can destroy it just like last time. But we need to act fast." The officers on the bridge nodded in agreement. They had all seen the devastation the Empire's full fleet could cause, and they knew what was at stake. Elena's plan was risky, but it was their best shot at survival. "Prepare the fleet for launch," she ordered. "We'll need to move out in the next few hours. We'll take the fight to them." The tension in the air was thick. They had barely won the last battle, and now they were about to face an even greater force. But there was no turning back. Earth's fleet had to stand and fight. Meanwhile, in the heart of the Galactic Empire, Lord Valcor was preparing his fleet for what he believed would be the final assault to crush humanity once and for all. His anger had only grown since the loss of the flagship, and now he was more determined than ever to make humans pay for their audacity. "They think they can defeat us," Valcor sneered as he stood in the war room. "They are nothing but insects to be crushed under the boot of the Empire." His generals gathered around him, awaiting his orders. Their ships were ready, their weapons loaded. The Empire's forces were vast, but Valcor knew that the humans had a habit of striking when they were most desperate. He would not let that happen again. "Prepare the fleet for immediate deployment," Valcor commanded. "We will show them what happens when they challenge the might of the Empire. I want the Earth to burn." The Empire's forces began to mobilize at lightning speed. Their ships lined up in formation, preparing to engage Earth's fleet head-on. The Empire was determined to teach humanity a lesson they would never forget. Back on the Vanguard, Elena's crew worked tirelessly to prepare for the coming battle. The tension was palpable as the fleet made its final preparations. Fighters were readied, weapons were loaded, and every officer understood the gravity of the situation. "We've got one shot at this," Elena said to her officers, her voice steady but intense. "We can't afford to hesitate. We fight with everything we have, and we end this war before it can destroy us." As the countdown to battle began, Elena's mind was focused. She had seen what the Empire could do, and she knew that the stakes had never been higher. This wasn't just about saving Earth. It was about proving that humanity wasn't just some easy target. They were a force to be reckoned with. Her thoughts flashed to her home, to the billions of people who were relying on them to win this battle. She knew they couldn't afford another defeat. She had to win, no matter the cost. "Fleet is ready, Captain," one of the officers reported. "We'll be in position in 30 minutes. Elena nodded. "Let's do this." As Earth's fleet prepared to move out, the Empire's forces closed in. The two sides, one vast and imposing, the other desperate and determined, were now on a collision course. Both sides knew what was at stake. This battle would determine the fate of the galaxy. For Elena and her crew, there was no more time for doubt. The enemy was close. The battle was about to begin, and Earth's fate rested in their hands. The countdown clock ticked down to 0. With a roar of engines, the Vanguard and the rest of Earth's fleet surged forward, heading straight into the heart of the Empire's forces. The stars around them seemed to blur as they raced toward the inevitable clash. They were outnumbered, they were outgunned, but they weren't backing down. The first salvo of the battle erupted as Earth's fleet opened fire, and the war between humans and the Galactic Empire truly began. The next few hours would decide everything. And as Elena stood at the helm, she knew this. Humanity had something the Empire didn't: determination. They would not go quietly into the night. "You said, the battle for survival." The moment Earth's fleet made contact with the Empire's, space seemed to shudder under the weight of the battle. Explosions lit up the dark expanse as the two sides clashed with all the fury of a storm. The Empire's massive warships launched devastating volleys, while Earth's smaller, more agile ships danced through the chaos, dodging fire and returning with deadly precision. Elena gripped the controls of the Vanguard, her heart racing as she watched the battle unfold. The Empire's ships, though far larger and more advanced, were not prepared for the kind of ferocity the humans brought. They had underestimated Earth's resolve, and now the consequences were unfolding before their eyes. "Captain, we're taking heavy fire from their dreadnoughts," one of her officers reported. Elena's eyes flicked to the screen, watching as the Vanguard shuddered under the impact. But they kept moving. Their mission was clear: break the enemy's lines and take down their command structure. "Hold course," she ordered, her voice unwavering. "Focus fire on their flagship. We need to take down their command." The rest of the fleet followed suit, concentrating their fire on the massive flagship at the heart of the Empire's formation. But as Earth's forces closed in, the Empire retaliated with full force. "I'm reading multiple enemy reinforcements coming from behind," Captain Ryland warned. "They're trying to trap us." Elena's mind raced. They had known the Empire would come back hard, but the sheer force of this counterattack was almost overwhelming. If they didn't act fast, they would be surrounded, and Earth's fleet would be decimated. "We can't let that happen," Elena said. "Prepare the maneuver. Get ready to break through their rear lines. We need to create a gap so we can hit their flagship directly." The Vanguard shot forward, weaving through enemy fire, leading the charge into the heart of the Empire's forces. The other ships in the fleet followed, each one pushing forward with the same single-minded determination. The first wave of enemy reinforcements hit Earth's rear guard with brutal force, but Earth's ships were too quick. Fighter jets zipped in and out of the fray, taking out enemy bombers with pinpoint accuracy, while larger ships used their speed and maneuverability to slip through the enemy's lines. "On my mark, hit the rear," Elena commanded, her voice sharp and clear. With precision, the fleet executed the maneuver, tearing through the gap in the enemy lines. The Empire's ships attempted to regroup, but it was too late. Earth's forces had made it to their flagship, and the first round of fire pierced its outer hull. But the Empire's flagship wasn't going down easily. Massive turrets on the ship's surface rotated, locking onto Earth's fleet. A surge of energy radiated from the flagship, and before Elena could react, a powerful beam shot toward the Vanguard, slamming into its shields. The ship shuddered under the impact, the hull groaning under the pressure. Sparks flew from the consoles, and alarms blared. "Shields down to 40%. We need to do something," one of the officers shouted. Elena clenched her fists. The Empire was playing its trump card, but she had one of her own. "Send in the strike team," she said. "We'll take them down from the inside." As the fleet continued to bombard the flagship with fire, a small fleet of stealth ships, hidden in the chaos, darted toward the flagship's hangar bay. Their goal was simple: penetrate the heart of the ship and destroy its command center from within. Elena knew this was their last chance. The strike team was humanity's ace in the hole, and if they didn't succeed, the entire fleet would fall. Elsewhere, the strike team silently approached the flagship's hangar, a group of elite soldiers and engineers who had volunteered for this dangerous mission. They had been trained for stealth, for speed, and for the brutal realities of war. Their goal was to infiltrate the flagship, plant explosives on the central command systems, and destroy it before the Empire could react. "Stealth shields engaged," one of the soldiers whispered over the comms. "We're in." The team dropped into the hangar bay undetected, using the ship's architecture to hide their movements. They knew that time was running out, and the longer they waited, the harder it would be to succeed. "Let's move," the team leader whispered, signaling for them to advance. They sprinted through the dark hallways, their boots echoing in the silence as they approached the control center. Tension was thick in the air, the weight of the task pressing down on them. They had one shot at this. If they failed, the entire human race would pay the price. As they reached the control center, the team leader planted a set of explosives on the massive doors, silently counting down. The countdown was brief, but it felt like an eternity. Back on the Vanguard, Elena's pulse quickened as the battle raged on. The flagship was taking damage, but it was still firing, still threatening Earth's fleet. Her crew fought valiantly, but the clock was ticking. They needed to know whether the strike team had succeeded. Then, a bright flash erupted from the heart of the flagship. The explosion was visible even from the distant battle. A shockwave rippled through the battlefield as the flagship's shields flickered and then failed, the ship's core cracking open like a dying star. Alina's heart soared. They had done it. The flagship was destroyed. But even in the midst of their triumph, the battle was far from over. The Empire's forces were still in full retreat, regrouping, and Earth's fleet had been battered. The war was not yet won. Alina turned to her officers, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. This isn't over, but this is the turning point. Let's finish this. With renewed determination, Earth's forces closed in, knowing that the end of the Empire was finally within their reach. And as the final battles began to unfold, the message was clear. Humans didn't just fight wars. They ended them. The Empire's fall. The aftermath of the flagship's destruction sent shockwaves through the battlefield. The Empire's once immense fleet, now wounded and disoriented, struggled to regroup. The loss of their flagship was more than just a blow to their military might. It was a symbolic defeat, one that shattered the Empire's invincible aura. Across the battlefield, Earth's forces rallied, their spirits bolstered by the triumph. Alina, standing on the bridge of the vanguard, watched as the Empire's formation began to falter. They had done it. They had broken the heart of the Empire, but there was still much left to do. "We have them on the ropes," Captain Ryland said, his voice tight with exhilaration. "Their fleet is disorganized, and we're pressing in on them from all sides." Alina's eyes flicked to the holographic map, where the last remnants of the Empire's forces were scattered and struggling. They still had strength. There was no mistaking that, but it was clear that the once feared Galactic Empire was no longer invincible. The battle was turning in Earth's favor. "We finish this today," Alina declared, her tone unyielding. "Take them out. All of them. We will not let them regroup." The fleet surged forward again, their ships now more confident than ever. The Empire's ships were slower to react, their crew members rattled from the unexpected turn of events. But the humans, their blood pumping with the heat of victory, did not hesitate. As Earth's ships closed in, lasers and missiles tore into the remnants of the Empire's forces. Earth's ships moved with a precision that was unmatched, their weapons cutting through the Empire's defenses like a hot knife through butter. In the midst of the chaos, Alina spotted a lone Imperial destroyer, attempting to escape the destruction. It was clearly damaged, its engines struggling to keep it in motion. She knew that this was their chance to crush the last remnants of the Empire's power. "Send the strike team after that destroyer," Alina ordered. "We finish it now." A squadron of Earth's fastest ships shot forward, darting through the debris of the battle, closing in on the fleeing destroyer. The Empire's ship tried to maneuver, but it was no match for the relentless pursuit of humanity's finest pilots. With a final powerful salvo, the destroyer exploded in a burst of light, marking the end of the Empire's military presence in that sector. And with that, the battlefield fell silent. Back on Earth, the news spread like wildfire. The Galactic Empire, the greatest force the galaxy had ever known, had been defeated. News stations broadcast the images of Earth's fleet returning to their home planet, their ships battered but triumphant. Humanity had won. In the halls of government, leaders and strategists gathered, their eyes glued to the broadcasts of the fleet's return. They had witnessed the impossible, the victory of an underdog against an empire that had ruled with an iron fist for centuries. "What now?" one of the generals asked, his voice calm but tinged with awe. Alina, having returned to Earth with the fleet, stood in front of them, her eyes filled with determination. "Now, we rebuild. We take the lessons learned from this war and prepare for whatever comes next. But we don't stop fighting. We've shown the galaxy that humanity doesn't fight wars. We end them." The room was silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Earth had made its mark on the galaxy. The war was over, but humanity's place in the stars was only just beginning. The galactic peace that followed was unprecedented. The Empire, in its final moments, had attempted to negotiate, but the damage was done. The core systems of their government had crumbled. Other races that had once feared the Empire began to rise, freed from the shadow that had loomed over them for centuries. Earth's influence spread rapidly, and its reputation as a force to be reckoned with became legendary. Elena, now celebrated as the hero of humanity, looked out over the Earth from her office window, the blue planet serene in the vastness of space. She could hear the voices of her officers behind her, discussing the future of Earth's role in the galaxy. The war was over, but the journey was just beginning. "We have won," she thought to herself, "but now we must build something new." And with that, Earth embarked on a new era, an era defined by humanity's strength, their resilience, and their unbreakable spirit. The defeat of the Galactic Empire had changed the course of history, and now it was time for humanity to chart its own destiny. The message was clear to all who watched. Humanity wasn't just a fleeting species. They were here to stay. They didn't just fight wars, they ended them. And the galaxy would never forget the day humanity stood up and reshaped the stars.